All right, everybody, welcome back. One more safety video, and then we will be moving on. We'll actually be moving on from the free agency primer series, period, more or less. And we are going to conclude our look at the strong safeties by trying to figure out some depth here. Again, we do, for the moment, have Julian Love as the quote-unquote strong safety. And by the way, the designations don't matter that much anymore, so the important thing to keep in mind is that Julian Love is a safety. But we do have him for the time being, and he'll be fine for 1 year, I think. So we do maybe need to look for a backup for him, a traditional, just like veteran minimum, vet min plus making backup. So if we decide to hit free agency for that backup, I got some options. I think these guys are going to be cheap. I think these guys are going to be relatively accepting of a reduced role. Maybe we'll do some three safety stuff so some of these guys could get on the field that way, the same way Julian Love did, right? He was our third safety until Adams got hurt, but he still saw the field plenty. All right, so I got a couple candidates here. First guy is Jaylen Mills, just about to turn 30 here. He was a Patriot for some time, won a Super Bowl in Philadelphia, and then went to New England for 3 years. So he's kind of been bouncing around a little bit lately. He's played some corner, played some safety, pretty good versatility. Last year, I believe New England primarily used him as a safety that would sometimes come up and play the slot, but he had a non-trivial role for that team, wearing multiple different hats. He never been a great player, never been a superstar or anything like that, but he's been relatively solid, but he's getting to the point now where I think he's going to have to accept a reduced role. He's probably going to accept a backup role. I can't imagine him getting much more than the veteran minimum, given the fact that last year he did play fairly well, but it wasn't anything over the top amazing, and he's now on the wrong side of 30, so to me, he's probably just a vetman guy you bring in as a high-quality backup or maybe a really low-level starter. And the nice thing about him is that he gives you a little bit of versatility to play cornerback if injuries happen. So definitely something to boost a little bit of his value. So 1 year, $2 million for Jaylen Mills. Bring him in as a backup safety. Can't go too wrong. Next guy is another guy who has Mike Macdonald connections. It's Chuck Clark. Chuck Clark was a Raven for several years there. Several years he intersected with Mike Macdonald, including 2022 when Macdonald was the DC. Again, never really a superstar player, but he did have a very nice season in 2022. Over 100 tackles as a safety. Played some free safety, played some strong safety, so he's got pretty good versatility here. He's not critically old yet. He's going to turn 29 in April, so he's got a few more decent years left. But, and this is the issue with Chuck Clark, you may notice he did not play in 2023 at all. He missed the whole season with an injury for the Jets. So you go back to 2022, his last season, he was graded out fairly well, well respected, considered to be a good part of that defense. By all accounts, this is a good player, but you can't miss a whole season and then expect to go get paid, right? He didn't play a snap in 2023, and I have to believe that's going to affect his ability to earn money this offseason, so I do think he will probably take reduced salary, maybe like, what did he make last year with the Jets for the 1 year? $5.1 million, now becoming a free agent. Does he get like $2 million so he can prove that he's healthy again or something like that? I don't know. It depends on how he's rehabbing, I guess. It depends on some particulars. But Chuck Clark could be very cheap, and this is a player who was relatively consistent out there previously. The injury seems like a kind of a fluke. It's not like this guy misses 6 games a year or anything like that. So Chuck Clark would be a viable option. Ardarius Washington is another guy, and I'm just putting him here because he has a little bit of a connection with Macdonald. UDFA, went to the Ravens a few years ago, 2021 to 2023. Never had a big role on that defense, never really did that much. In fact, I think that if you look at his snap count, you can see that he barely broke 100 snaps last year, and that was by far the most snaps he's played in a season. So, not really somebody who is that exciting, but again, there's a little bit of that connection with him and Macdonald because they were both on the Ravens at the same time. So, might be a little more interesting to Macdonald to bring somebody that he's been working with these last couple years. even if the results have been, I mean, not bad or anything, just a very small sample size. And he's very undersized, by the way. So if anything, you might have to pull him in and make him a full-time slot cornerback because he's probably too small to handle safety stuff. But even then, is he going to be able to tackle the way you need somebody to tackle in this Mike Macdonald defense? I don't know. Final guy for depth for me would be Eric Murray of the Houston Texans, coming off a season where he ended on the injured reserve. Just turned 30 a little bit ago, probably has a little bit of gas left. 3 years in Kansas City, 1 year in Cleveland, last 4 years in Houston. Been a relatively reliable part of that secondary, but he's barely played the last 2 years. He was a backup player in 2022, and in 2023 he missed most of the season with the injury. So at this point, I think Eric Murray is very clearly a backup quality player, and that's about it. So I think that Eric Murray will take like Vetmin or Vetmin Plus just to stay in the league. You look at his PFF scores, there's nothing too remarkable to stand out here. There's some stuff that's pretty bad, actually. But he's a veteran, he's experienced, and there is a certain comfort level with him because he's been in the league for so long, and he's been involved in the league for so long. This is not somebody who just wanders around from team to team every year because he can't find any success anywhere. This is a guy who's had some degree of success, enough to latch on with these teams. And those would be the main guys that I would pursue for depth purposes. There's Micah Hyde, but he turned 33, and I kind of feel like the cliff is about to come with him. But Micah Hyde would be another one, I guess, if you want to throw him in there. Getting up there in age, but he did have a pretty good season for Buffalo in 2023, and he should be relatively cheap, probably a little more than I want to spend on a backup. Spotrac had him at like $3.7 million for 1 year. I'd kind of prefer to not do that unless we're going to start him, and I don't want to start Micah Hyde at this point. I think he's just ready to break down. So he's kind of occupying this weird niche of he's a little too good to be a backup, but he's not good enough for me to want to start. So I just kind of stayed away. And yeah, that's really about it for the safety stuff, man. There's obviously other guys. There's guys like Adrian Amos, Adrian Phillips. Yeah, you could go down this list, find some guys I didn't talk about, like Cody Davis, although he's even older than Micah Hyde. There are guys out there that you could pursue for depth purposes. I'm not going to pretend like I got to everybody in this video, or rather this video series. But I think we found enough viable options to entertain ourselves while we tried to figure out what the long-term goal for this Seahawks team is at the position. But that's your free agency primer series. Starting tomorrow, we're going to open up on draft stuff. So we're going to swing right into a new series, so don't get too comfortable. And hope you guys enjoyed the free agency primer. I know that the interest is obviously waned by now. There's only so much of this stuff you can listen to before it just kind of, I understand. Like, this stuff is for the sickos. This is for the sickos right here, the people who want to digest every little bit of information possible. So I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. I'm going to do one video tomorrow kind of talking about my preferred path through the offseason, which is going to be nice now that we know some of the cuts. And see you guys then. But until then, catch me on Twitch tonight, and go Hawks.